1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If you got the money, honey, I've got the time. We'll go honky-tonkin' and we'll have a time. We'll have more fun, baby, all the way down the line. If you got the money, honey, I've got the time.
So that captures the, I'm only talking about the mid-peninsula real estate market. They've covered a lot of different markets. I'm talking about everything from about Millbrae down to Redwood City. So some of my data is going to be similar to theirs, some of it will be different because it's a lot more hyper-local. That song, in my opinion, defines the real estate market. The reason I say that, Lucy, what was the statistic you gave? The national median home price is what, $268?
Something, yeah.
Yeah. So I occasionally get people who don't know that the real estate market on the Mid-Peninsula is different. And I'll get calls from, yeah, it's amazing. I'll get calls from a buyer that maybe somebody local or more likely somebody who's being recruited to the Bay Area. They're getting what we would all consider a good job, good pay, but maybe not good relative to the .coms and so forth. And they call me and they say, Chris, we're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a good school district, close to maybe a downtown, needs to be walkable near Caltrain and so forth, and we need to pay $350,000 to $400,000. And I'm like, well, you're not going to get that.
Right.
And I feel a little bit arrogant saying that, but that's just the market that we're in. So let's take a look at some of the stats here. Remember in 2007 when anybody who could fog a mirror could get a loan? You were talking to the loans drive the real estate market, at least that's a big part of it. If you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. In 2007, you could call your lender and say, I want to buy this $1 million house, and he'd say, how much do you earn? Well, how much do I need to earn? $500,000 a year. Oh, coincidentally, I earn $500,000 a year. I can't prove that to you, but that's what I earn. And then the market crashed. And everybody said prices will never ever recover. It's going to be at least 10 years before prices get back to where they were before. But you can see that right now, this is for the Mid-Peninsula again, we're $185,000 above what everybody said was going to be the all-time high. So let's go to single-family homes. Single-family homes are even worse or better, depends upon which way you look at this. $263,000 above the all-time high. And in the last 3 years, prices have gone up by 33%. And I think back to some of the buyers who I would run into at the grocery store would call me up and they'd say, you know, this is back in 2011, we're going to wait because we don't think prices have hit bottom yet. And now I see these people and I think you have cost yourself so much money because the market recovered more quickly than anyone could have predicted. Condos, and this is, me and Lucy had talked about something like this. What happens in the market is that single-family homes, most people in general, would prefer to buy a single-family home if they can. But prices get to a certain point where they say, hey, I'm out, I cannot afford a single-family home, so then they're going to try to buy a condo. So then we see a very rapid escalation in condo prices. Was anybody here in the presentation I did to the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Group back in February? If you had seen this same presentation, this same chart, I would have shown a negative $20-some thousand. So essentially since February, the average sales price for condos has gone, in 8 months, has gone up $70-some thousand. So we're seeing a very quick appreciation in the condo market. List to sale price ratio. Me and Lucy had talked about this before. Look at 2000 and, by the way, this is my pointer for my cat, if anybody has a cat. The list to sale price ratio for our market so far this year is about 107% of asking. So if you're a buyer, forget about what they're asking for the property because you're probably not going to get it for that. You're going to have to go into the market expecting I'm going to have to pay over that. So let's talk about some specific examples. Does anybody know this house?
Yeah.
Okay. The 345 Aragon Boulevard in the Aragon neighborhood, and the big driver in the Aragon neighborhood is the fact that the kids who live in the Aragon neighborhood go to Baywood Elementary. And I think Baywood is either the highest or tied for number one with Brewer Island Elementary. I think those are the two highest performing schools in the San Mateo, Boston City Elementary School District. That's what drives this market. I think that 2.398 was the highest list price ever, and yet it still sold for $427,000 over. Now remember that 7% over asking statistic that I just gave you? This is more like what, 17? There were 6 offers on this, and this is the definition of our buyers. Somebody said, I want my kids to get into Baywood, I want to live in this neighborhood because it's a great neighborhood, the house was the right size, I want this house. And they start throwing money at it. So that's how they won that one. Here's another example. Does anybody know Hayward Park? I know you know Hayward Park. I live not far from this house. I was inside of this house. This house is not worth $1.4 million. I actually wrote it. You would think I live in a neighborhood, been doing business there forever, for 10 years at least. And I wrote an offer for $1.325 on that house. Thought surely I would, not me personally, but for one of my buyers, I thought surely I would get this house. We get blown away. 1.4 million. And they're putting another $600,000 into this property. So we all talk about tech driving this area. This is not a tech buyer. This is someone who's benefited from tech. The person who bought this, his dad is a very high-end contractor out of Palo Alto. They're building these mega mansions that we all see on the news. So his dad has made a lot of money, helped them buy this property, and now dad's construction company is doing $600,000 worth of work. And to tell you why this thing needs so much work, this redwood tree had to come out because the redwood tree is actually collapsing the foundation. I was in the basement. I know for a fact that the foundation is leaning. That had to come out. All the windows are being replaced. All the electrical is being replaced. All the plumbing is being replaced. The sewer has been replaced. The garage in the back has been torn down and rebuilt. So all of that's being done. And I don't know if you know Hayward Park, but it is not a $2 million neighborhood. And this person said, I want this house. I don't care what I have to pay for it. I don't care what I have to put into it. I want the house. That's our market. Next example here. This is one on Rosewood Drive, again in Hayward Park. If anybody knows the history of San Mateo, the old Hayward Mansion used to sit on this area. So it's a nice area, but this house, the kitchen needs updated. One of the bathrooms needs updated. And the house is only 1,450 square feet. Sold for $1.4 million. $965 a square foot. Things in Baywood and Aragon are not even selling at that price right now. That one I just showed you, the first one that sold for 400-some thousand over, that only sold at $901 per square foot. So someone came into Hayward Park. I live there. I know Hayward Park's not worth $965. And yet, this person, this is another example of how you don't have to be in tech, but many people are benefiting from tech and driving up the housing prices. This person who bought this sold, I think it was an $8 million house in Hillsborough. I think that they owned it free and clear. Sold an $8 million house, bid on another one of my properties in Hayward Park, got outbid on it and said, I'm not losing the next one. So they came, we already had one offer, they came in with another offer and said, what is it going to take to get this thing? All cash, no contingencies. I think we had a 10-day close or something. It's just, eventually the market will prove that person right. But right now it looks like this person overpaid for it. But yet the market is, at least in my opinion, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but the market, I think, is going to prove them right. To say, yes, this was a good buy for them. Why is this happening? Well, look at the trend in inventory. And again, this is just for the Mid-Peninsula. Since 2005, we've seen the number for sale homes going down. This is an even more telling example. If you look at San Mateo right now, this time of the year, we should have the number of single-family homes. We should have 142 approximately available. If you look at like a 15-year history, so right now there should be 142 that any one of you can go out and look at and say, I want this one. That's what it should be. Well, what it actually is, I think this is 1 or 2 days old now, 45 single-family homes available for sale. So we've seen inventory going down, but yet we've seen buyer demand going up. That is why we're seeing the bidding wars. This is why we, again, this is my opinion, this is why we're seeing low inventory. So imagine you own a home here, and you call me up and you say, Chris, you know, this house has gotten too big for me. I want to buy maybe a smaller house. I still want to be around San Mateo, but I want to sell my home. And I'm going to say, Lisa, congratulations. This is a great time to sell. You're going to be surprised by the amount of money you're going to get for the house. And you're going to be surprised how fast it's going to sell. So you need to get prepared to move. Now, what I have to caution you on is that you're going to be in a bidding war to buy your replacement house. And I can't guarantee how quickly you're going to get it. Depending upon how aggressive you might want to be, it might take you 6 months to get into the house. So we need to start looking at some short-term rental housing. Many times when I have a conversation with somebody like Lisa, she says, I'm not going to rent. I'm not going to move twice. I want to sell my house. So that's one of the reasons that the inventory is so low. A lot of the inventory, because this goes back to not having enough, let's say, replacement housing, she's not going to sell because I can't guarantee what she's going to move into. I made it big letters. I think we can all answer this question. Low interest rates, wealthy buyers, fueled by technology, international buyers. Who here was in the housing market in, I don't know, 1980s? I think the market hit, I think 21% was the interest rate. Hopefully that never happens again, or I won't be selling real estate anymore probably. But if you look, a 50-year historic average is 8.74%, and yet right now we're at 3.8%. Now we've been saying for probably a year now, I know we've been telling our clients, buy now because the rates are going to go up. They haven't really gone up much yet, but they will. I'm just telling you, buyers get that. They know that if they don't get in now, the interest rates are going to go up, and the prices are going to keep rising. So wealthy tech buyers. Anybody heard of Alibaba? Mm-hmm. Okay. Largest IPO in history. Now, to make this relative, Facebook went public at what, $16 billion? Okay, that was their initial public offering. I think Alibaba was 21.5 billion, I believe. Now again, they're kind of like all these companies rolled into one of China. $230 billion valuation as of yesterday. Why do we care? It's a Chinese company. How does that affect us? Well, Yahoo owns 24%. And if anybody follows the stock market, Yahoo released their third quarter earnings report early this month, through the end of September. $9.4 billion primarily because of the sale of Alibaba stock. And that's not even all of what they own. Okay, maybe it's a one-time thing. And then we look at this and say, after an initial public offering, there's a lockup period where insiders can't sell their stock. So part of that, $40 billion worth comes out of lockup in March, $149 billion comes out in September. Now, certainly not all of this is held by Bay Area investors, but a good portion of it is. What is that going to do to our local market? I know what I would do if I liquidated something like that. I'd go buy a Ferrari, I wouldn't care what I pay for a house, I'd go buy my wife a nice big ring. So all these things are going to affect our local market. And then we also have all these companies here. This is I think this was on the Mercury News or something back a couple months ago. 14 Silicon Valley companies slated to go public from Labor Day through the end of the year. Look at all these companies. Some of them, like anybody follow GoPro, I have a GoPro camera, they went public recently. Some of that money is going to come back into our market. So these companies go public. Now what happens is not only do people liquidate that stock and go buy fancy cars and things, but some of these venture capitalists that invested in these companies put it back into new startups. There may be some kids at CSM here that are going to start a company that get funded. So the money gets circulated back into the economy, keeps pushing everything back up. I really like this quote. It came out sometime last year from the Mercury News. I like the ripple effect of wealth enjoyed by restaurateurs, gardeners, and so forth. I don't know if anybody's been downtown San Mateo on a Friday or Saturday night. There's no parking. All the restaurants are full. Okay, that is a benefit of what's going on here, or a benefit or a downside maybe. Bonham and Butterfields. Anybody been to any of their auctions? So Bonham and Butterfields, they auction off like high-end stuff. They were down at the Monterey Auto Week. They auctioned off multi-million-dollar cars. So very high-end auctioneer. I was recently working with someone that got recruited to the Bay Area by them. They got a $12,000 a month housing allowance. Now, so I'm just one person. How many other agents are there that are working with people similar to this? So what does it do to the rental market when your company says, use it or lose it? You got $12,000 a month? I don't care what I'm going to pay for a rental place. I'm going to get whatever I want, and if I'm overpaying, big deal. So that is having an impact on the market. Okay, how do you buy a home on the Mid-Peninsula? Again, this is the Mid-Peninsula. It's not everywhere in the Bay Area. Well, first of all, 20.7% of the transactions in the past, I think I did this over just so far this year, 20.7% are all cash. Well, Chris, I don't have all cash. Okay, good. 50% of the loans, there's a lender that Prospect Mortgage does a lot of loans in the area. They tell me that 50% of their loans are jumbo. And if you don't know what qualifies for a jumbo loan is $625,500 or more. Now, I'm not originally from the Bay Area, so $625,000 to me still seems like a lot of money, and that's a huge mortgage. But 50% of the people are getting jumbo loans. Average down payment 20%. What's 20% of $600 and some thousand dollars? That's a lot of money. Average credit score mid-700s. So if I look at somebody, let's say a blue-collar worker who's got a good job, name any industry around here, you got a good job, you're getting what you could call good pay, how do you compete with some of these people? So it's very hard to buy a house. Okay, so let me walk you through, if you're a buyer and you say, Chris, I want to buy a house, I got my financing all lined up and all this stuff, I want to buy a house. What do I got to do? These are the things you need to do. All right, so a house comes on the market. Let's look at those three houses that I showed you earlier. First of all, I'm going to say, I won't say Lisa anymore. I'm going to say Linnell. Okay, I'm going to say Linnell. All right, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what you've got to do. You really want this house. Well, Linnell, we need to make sure you've already talked to your lender. You need to be 100% qualified. No questions asked before we write that offer. And then I'm going to say, you're paying a lot of money for this house. It might not appraise for the value that you're offering. You might be having to go over what the appraised value would be. And let me rewind a little bit. 2007, what I could do in 2007, I could call the appraiser and say, hey, I just wrote an offer for Linnell at $1.5 million. I need you to bring the appraisal in at 1.5. They'd say, okay. I mean, that's how easy it was back then. Now, there's a whole intermediary between me and the appraiser, so I can't influence those things. Well, not that I ever did it. So now we have to worry that Linnell's she's gonna have to come up with extra money if that appraiser comes in short. Right now, Linnell, I know you really want to check this house out. I know you don't trust the inspection report that the seller gave us, but you're gonna have to waive your inspection contingency, or you're not gonna get the house. Now, okay, Linnell, we're going to look at all the comparable sales, all the houses that sold in this neighborhood that are similar to that. We're going to add 7% to what they sold for. That's probably going to get you in the market. Now, some neighborhoods, you want to move in Baywood, we're going to have to go a little bit higher than that. And then I'm going to say, Linnell, how bad do you want this house? Because I know for a fact that there's a lady who has been outbid several times. She's going to be competing with you, but she really wants it bad. To give you a real-life scenario on a house I sold last year, they had been outbid on several properties. Excuse my language, but the wife said to the husband, don't be a cheap ass on me. I want this house. She was pregnant. She didn't want to have the baby in the rental that they were in, so they ended up getting out because they're willing to pay more than anybody else. So that is what you've got to do in general to get a property. Now those are for the hot properties. If we can find one for you that's been sitting for a while, maybe you don't have to do that. But that's the general market. First-time home buyer assistance programs. You're not going to get it. If I'm consulting with you and say, Chris, I want you to sell my house, we get 3 offers. One offer is all cash, really good price. The next offer is a very well-financed person with plenty of extra cash, just in case the appraiser comes in low. And then we have a first-time home buyer here that barely is able to come up with their 3.5% down payment and their closing costs. They don't have any extra money to spare. I'm going to say, Mark, I know you really like these people here. Are you willing to take that risk? Because the chance of them, the first-time home buyer, with their assistance programs, the chance of them not being able to complete this is higher than these other two. Which one are you going to choose? And of course, in general, people are going to choose the other two options. So it's very difficult in a competitive situation to get into a house with these kind of programs. I saw this in a newspaper article recently. Nationally, foreclosure sales account for more than half of all cash transactions. So a lot of those first-time home buyers will see articles like this and say, well, I don't have all cash. You know what? Maybe the option is for me to buy a foreclosure or a short sale. I've heard a lot about those. You know, those things don't, you can get a deal on those. Well, it's not going to happen. Okay? I want somebody to guess here. My assistant every Monday runs statistics for me for the 7 cities on the Mid-Peninsula. I got a bunch of stats here. How many distressed properties, and that would be foreclosures or short sales, do you think this past Monday there were on the Mid-Peninsula? Between single-family homes and condos. Anybody want to guess?
0.
Well, you know what, actually, it's a little bit, it's 2. So those properties are going to get multiple offers. They're going to get bid up too, so there are no more deals left anymore. So, that's okay. I like to be gracious. That's